Hi, Jordan.
Hi.
Thanks for coming in today. It's nice seeing you again.
Same. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, last week we spent a good amount of time kind of just gathering information, kind of going over your privacy rights, going over anything else that you may have questions, just about the structure of our sessions. And then hopefully today we can get into actually why you're here.
hmm
But before we start, do you have any questions for us regarding like your privacy rights or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. You're pretty good at explaining them.
Thank you. All right. No, yeah. If you have any questions throughout the session, just let me know. We can always stop. But okay. I just want to see how you're at least feeling right now. How are you feeling coming into the session?
Mm, I'm excited to be in the session and get to, talk about stuff and hopefully it just helps my anxiety a little bit more.
Tell me about that anxiety that's going on.
Yeah, I'm a grad student right now and I'm also just navigating like internship coming up, so I feel like there's a lot of stuff that's happening in my life. Um, so I just think that there's a lot of stress surrounding that.
Mhm. All right. So you're a grad student. Just a lot of stress revolving that. You said internship coming up in the fall.
Mhm.
Do you work as well, or?
I do. I work full time, so that's kind of like I think been a big stressor for me is like how am I going to balance all of this if it's already hard, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's both of those take all your energy. Yeah. Okay. And who do you surround yourself with? What is your living situation like in your community?
Yeah, so I live with my wife and my mom right now. So it's like, I have a good marriage. I would say like my support system is very much there, so I'm very beneficial for that. That I'm have a good support system and people looking out for me. So it's not like I don't feel loved. I think more so it's the self-love that's kind of hard right now and just being really hard on myself. So I think navigating like just wanting my own space, with my wife and also just like navigating like, imposter syndrome, things like that. Yeah, it just seems to be anxiety is really heavy just anywhere that I am.
Hmm. Yeah. It sounds like you're looking towards the future and planning for it and prepping, and it's exciting, but it's causing a lot of anxiety. And it feels heavy. I feel heavy here.
hmm Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
there in like my throat, I definitely like I've noticed that like when I start to like have like anxious thoughts, I oftentimes feel like a blockage in like expressing myself. So that's why it's going to be interesting coming here to talk because I oftentimes struggle to talk about, you know, I feel it and I can hear it and think about it, but it's like when it comes to getting it out, it's a little bit difficult for me.
Hmm. Yeah. Sometimes our thoughts get caught right here, and we don't want to release them because I don't know, it's too much. So
Yeah.
they just stay right
Yeah, for
here.
sure.
Okay, well, let's go into the anxiety for a little bit, and let's go into, you kind of talked about, I guess not low self-esteem, but like low, thoughts about self. Tell me, tell me about how that's been going lately, if you don't mind.
You mean like the thoughts of myself?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I feel like I don't know, I just feel like I have so much that I want to do and I don't and I know how I want to get there, but like I like instant gratification. I think that that's common. And I feel like if I'm kind of like in limbo for too long, I feel stagnant and then I just like don't feel like I'm doing enough and I think that that really starts to get to me. So when I say that I'm being hard on myself, I think it's just like I know that like I'm doing what I can, but I think it's like my mind that makes me feel that like I'm not doing enough, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah. There's no forward movement
Mhm.
that we're feeling. Yeah. And treading water.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. That gives me a better picture as to what you're bringing into the space, what we can kind of go through, and what support systems you have. You said that you have a couple support systems that are in place, but specifically your wife, but with another family member. I'd like to kind of do a quick question, like scaling your mood. That way we can see exactly where we're at and I can get a better understanding of what it's like for you to be you right now.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah. Okay. So the scale will be 0 to 10. Um, 0 meaning you are having thoughts of killing yourself. This is the lowest that we could be, or at least that we can imagine. And you're maybe that you're wanting to do something. You're wanting to harm yourself or hurt yourself or kill yourself. And then 10 being the best day of your life. You're doing great and you don't have any of those heavy feelings at all going on. Where would you say you are now coming into this space with me?
Um, I would say that I'm probably at like a 4 or 5. Probably like somewhere in between both of them. It's hard to put to like a full 50% versus like a little bit under that.
Hmm. And have you, or how is your anxiety in times that you're feeling lower than a 4?
Oh, that's like I've only been there maybe like twice in my whole life. And I would say that I mean that's pretty much like it's unbearable to where like I want to, like hurt myself. I've had thoughts of like killing myself before, but I haven't ever like made a plan or acted on it. I think it's more of not even necessarily killing myself. It's just not wanting to like deal with it anymore because I want
Hmm.
to, I have people that I love and I want to be the part of their lives and I enjoy what I do for work, things like that. But like sometimes I just want it all to stop. And I think that the thoughts are like so bad if I'm below a 4.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate you giving me all that information. Um, I think, yeah, I mean, if you're having those feelings of anxiety and you're wishing that, things can stop, I think that's normal. Um, it just becomes too much to deal with sometimes emotionally. So I appreciate, we already mentioned it getting stuck in your throat. So I appreciate that you let that out. It's hard to do. Okay. So being at a 4 is where we're at now, and being lower, it has not happened very often. How frequent would you say that you're at this 4 where things are bad, but they're not severe, like under a 4?
I feel like since I started grad school, like it's been pretty consistently at a 4. I would say that it goes to like upper like in like maybe like a 7 and 8 when I'm like, with my partner. So like during the day I feel like I'm at a 4. And then during the night I usually feel a little bit more like when I get home and I'm in my space with my partner, I feel much better. But like when I'm alone, that's when it really sets in. Because I don't have like that distraction. So like usually if I'm not busy, like at work, or I'm just like, you know, doing my own thing, I don't like to be alone because of that. So I try to not be. So I
Hmm.
would say it happens pretty frequently where I find myself spiraling is what I like to like refer it to. Like it's one thought and it just goes and goes and goes until like I'm like, what is going on? I can't get out of that. The thought process, it takes me a while to get out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe we can come across a bridge where we get to some coping mechanisms as well. But I appreciate you opening up that space for us to explore. I want to kind of circle back though before we, start going down these avenues about different ways to support you. I want to make sure I understand everything. We talked about your anxiety at a 4 and below a 4. And in that conversation, you did mention, thoughts of hurting yourself, potentially thoughts of killing yourself, but not maybe an intent. And so I want to go into that further. Tell me about the thoughts around suicide that you have when you're at a 4.
Mm. I don't have any at a 4 very frequently until recently, where stuff started to feel like I was headed for like a 3. So that's why I say it's never really set. My number fluctuates so much. So like I think it's been as of lately I've been having some stressors with family that has really like caused me to feel like I'm triggered to childhood events and like my coping style not matching my partner's, and it just like it's too much. Even being like
Mhm.
medicated, as I mentioned to you, I'm medicated. So even with medication, like I simply just sometimes can't manage it. And I just want it to like shut off, just like
Mhm.
what my anxiety medication does for me, but like more because it's just not
Yeah.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah. We want the context to turn off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that. Okay. Thank you. How how often would you say that you have those thoughts, that are getting to be more of like the 3.5, the 3.5 or 4? How often would you say that's been happening lately, like within the past month or so?
Um, Probably in the last couple weeks, it's been like, every other day or so because it just feels like I finally get to a safe place, and then my family member who lives with me just kind of like disrupts that. It's like I get regulated and then I get dysregulated again, and it's just like this constant up and down thing. So, yeah, I don't
Mhm.
really feel safe in general right now with that. So I'm trying to figure out what are the things I can do to manage it because it's just, like I said, it's just too much.
Yeah. So alongside some coping mechanisms, maybe ways that we can understand, like at least go over that dynamic, see what's playing out and how maybe we can help with that, because that seems to be, yeah, you're in tune that that's affecting you. Um, Before we go down that as well, I want to kind of compare, because it happens like every other day, and it's like a 3 or a 4 now. So if you were at like a 1 or a 2, which you said hasn't happened very often, how frequent were you having those suicidal thoughts, and what kind of thoughts of killing yourselves were you having?
I mean, I had thoughts of like ways that I could do things, but I didn't come up with like a concrete plan, nor did I feel like I wanted to like execute it. So it just scared me that I was even going there because I don't think I've been that low. Like I said, I've only been that low like a couple times. But when I start to recognize signs of that, that's when I start to be like, whoa, like I need to figure something out, which is why I'm here because I mean, if it's already this bad, I feel like if I don't like begin to have some skills to navigate this, that I could see myself getting down to like, that place again. And I just like would rather obviously not be there.